Good evening, everybody. I would like to call this meeting to order at 4 o'clock. This is our special meeting regarding our capital improvement program. This is workshop number 1. Madam Clerk, can you please call the roll?
Councilmember Dynas.
Here.
Councilmember Diedrich.
Here.
Councilmember Temple.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Carwin.
Here.
And Mayor Estrada.
I am here. Thank you very much, Madam Clerk. Councilman Diedrich, can you please lead us in the flag salute, sir? Thank you very much, Councilman Diedrich. We're going to move on to the discussion. This is regarding our fiscal years 2025, 2026, and 2026, 2027 biannual budget cycle. And we're also going to have a 10-year financial forecast and talk about the capital improvement program. I would like to ask our CFO, Travis Hickey, to introduce the item, please.
Okay, good evening, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, council members, members of the public, and city staff. I'm Travis Hickey, the city's CFO, and it's my pleasure to be here this afternoon to kick off the first public presentation of our budget season. Today's presentation will focus on the capital improvement program and is the first of 2 workshops we'll have on this topic. So before I get started, I also want to say a big thank you to all of the finance department staff who worked on this, as well as the engineering CIP staff that put this together as well, along with the other departments who participated as well, our community service people here as well. So, okay, so this chart normally accompanies our budget presentations and shows the life cycle of the budget. We currently are completing year 2 of our current budget cycle, and so we are now shifting our focus to the next 2-year budget. We do a 2-year budget to take a longer view of the city's finances. However, we have several check-ins along the way, including a mid-year review for year 1, a mid-cycle review going into year 2, another mid-year review for year 2, and each of these checkpoints also involve meeting with the city's Quality of Life Committee, the Citizens Oversight Committee tasked with reviewing the city's use of Measure DD sales tax measure passed by voters in 2016. So accountability and transparency continue to be high priorities throughout the budget cycle. Looking quickly at our budget timeline, you can see we have today's CIP workshop, a second CIP workshop scheduled for April 16th, our Quality of Life Measure DD committee meeting scheduled for April 22nd, followed by a comprehensive citywide budget workshop scheduled for May 7th. And finally, the City Council budget adoption scheduled for June 4th. So in setting the stage for our CIP presentation, which follows momentarily, we wanted to update the City Council, members of the public, city staff, about the city's 10-year model of revenues and expenditures. The 10-year model was originally developed and presented around this time in 2023. Small updates have been made since then, most notably with anticipated revenues and labor costs after the employee MOUs were approved in mid to late 2024. So let me first start out by saying the city's financial condition is strong. The city has a long history of adopting structurally balanced budgets, and we intend to present a similarly balanced budget for the upcoming 2-year cycle. The city has taken a fiscally conservative approach to budgeting, which has resulted in generally in savings at the end of each fiscal year, both on revenues and expenditures. So these savings have resulted in the ability for the city to set a general fund reserve policy at 40%, or nearly $37 million, along with the establishment of more specific reserves for fleet, fire, and other equipment replacement, unfunded liabilities, workers' compensation and general liability claims reserves, and public facilities of over $22 million. So we are well positioned to weather any storm. Additionally, the Quality of Life Fund has contributed over $33 million towards the city's CIP program and continues to be an ongoing source of funding for that. However, like many other California cities, indeed across the nation, we have experienced uncertainty and a leveling off of our ongoing revenues. Many cities going through their budget processes as we speak are considering funding cuts and other measures to bolster their revenues to close their budget deficits. Fortunately, the city is projecting revenue growth to continue, but it appears to be more like the previous 2 years rather than the growth rates experienced the prior 5 years. As such, we have narrowed our outlook a bit and are more focused on the next 5 years. Even looking out at the next 5 years, we see a major variance between the projected California GDP rate of 2% versus the city's historical growth rate of 6%, a difference of nearly $15 million in revenue for fiscal year 29-30. So with this in mind, we intend to proceed with this budget cycle to account really for contractually obligated costs, maintaining existing service levels, and incremental additions to operations for high priority strategic items. So unless there are any questions on this piece, I will turn it over to Director of Public Works, Nick Fidler, to walk us through the CIP part of the program.
Council, any questions on this financial forecast? Hearing none. Thank you, Mr. Hickey.
Thank you.
Welcome, Mr. Fidler.
Good afternoon, Honorable Mayor and Council members. Nick Fidler, Public Works Director, and thank you, Mr. Hickey, for the introduction. Moving into, as Mr. Hickey stated, we're moving into a 2-year budget cycle. This will also be part of the capital improvement program. We're proposing the fiscal year 25 and 26 and 26-27 capital improvement program for the budget and 5-year plan development. So going through the CIP budget adoption process, we're proposing the 2-year CIP budget, and we developed it in coordination heavily with our finance department, our community services department, and some of the other departments for smaller items. Staff identify and recommend projects and priority assignments and present proposed biennial CIP budget to the City Council through various workshops, today being the first. In 2 weeks will be the second workshop, and then also taking it through the DD committee, and then ultimately back to the City Council for approval of the projects. The city staff considers several items when we're proposing new projects for Council's consideration. First, primarily, is our funding availability and grant awards and opportunities. We look at project readiness and existing infrastructure. Projects that include risk and health and safety to the environment, legal mandates or requirements. We have several regulatory agencies that require us to do certain improvements, and you'll hear about that later this afternoon. We look towards City Council requests. We look at consistency with the general plan and several of our other planning documents. We have a host of planning documents such as the Complete Streets program, our pavement management program, our active transportation program, but relying primarily on the general plan. And then we lastly look at alignment with the strategic plan and goals and objectives. So we prioritize each of the projects 1 to 4. The 1 being the project is urgent and must be completed as soon as possible. 2, projects is important and addressing is necessary. 3, projects enhance quality of life and will provide a benefit to the community. And then 4, projects improve the community but does not necessarily need to be completed within a 5-year capital improvement program timeframe. We are proposing a total of 30 projects over the next 2 fiscal years. We have 8 grant match projects. You can see in fiscal year 25-26, we're proposing roughly $4 million, and 26-27, $625. And then we have safety projects, roughly 5.7 and 4.5. Developer-funded projects, there's a few different types of developer funds that we're going to be looking at. Some of them are CFD bond premiums, and others are specific project dollars that are to a specific project. And then we have 6 ongoing projects that we're requesting additional funding for.
Director Fiddler, I have a question. On the grant matches, are those pending grant matches, or are those solidified monies the city will receive, and we're at the end of the application process for them?
Those are grants that we have received award letters for, that we will be getting the grants, and these are the matches that are required for us to obtain those grants.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Good question. So moving into this, we have this is all the projects we're currently working on. You could see there's approximately 15 projects that are listed in construction, but you'll notice that 4 of them have a little asterisk next to them. Those projects are essentially substantially complete. We are just working through some of the final documentation. We have pending change orders, pending closeout documents, and then ultimately we bring those back to council for a notice of completion, and then they're deemed complete. I'll give you a second to take this list in, and I'll move to the next sheet. I'm going to move forward. As I mentioned, there's 15 projects that we're currently in construction with, 4 of them that are substantially complete. They're open to the public and in operation. And then we have 42 projects that are in design or planning, with a total number of 57 projects that staff are currently working on in various phases of the project's life. Okay, now moving into fiscal year 25 and 26 and fiscal year 26, 27 priority requests. These are your grant matches. If you look off to the left, you'll see a drainage project, McLaughlin Drainage Improvements. This is a match for funding that we're receiving through, I believe it's RCFCD, yes, Riverside County Flood Control District. And you can see in fiscal year 25, 26, we're looking at approximately $4 million, summing all these different projects up. The bigger ones, the transportation, McCall I-215 interchange, we're looking at $1.2 million, and quality of life, and $500,000 in Measure A. That project that we're looking to continue to progress, we're going to be moving into our PS&E, which is plan specifications and estimates. So that will take that to the next phase. We're just now wrapping up our project approval and environmental document. So we want to continue progressing that project forward. So adding money to that project to continue it. And then our roads and, our Scott Road, Bundy Canyon, again, this is a required match for $4 million in federal funds that we're receiving for that project. Romoland Elementary School, these are ATP projects where we're receiving $4.2 million. Our match is $589,000. And then the last 3 are HS Highway Safety Improvement Program projects that we were just recently awarded. So these are all the matches to those projects. And those came out of our local road safe program. And then continuing on, these are safety projects. These are projects that are required. A catch basin retrofit, I know there was a couple questions in regards to that. These are projects that are required for us as regulatory requirement and as our new MS4 program. These are to retrofit existing catch basins in high priority areas which are adjacent to apartments, schools, commercial centers, where there's a lot of debris generated that can end up into our water, stormwater collection system. So these screens help protect the water that's being transported through our community. Ridgemore is another project that we were awarded a grant. So that's in fiscal year of 26, 27. Again, this is another one that we are working towards. Then our PMPs are our standard pavement management program, where we have our annual local AC resurfacing or local slurry seal programs. The fundings are just broken up into the different fiscal years and the different funding categories. And then Getz Road, Vista Way traffic signal. This is continuing that project. This is to install a traffic signal at Getz Road and Vista Way, and also includes some widening toward the left turn pockets. And then Evans Road and Craig Road, again, we're in the preliminary design phase for this. This would help us with the construction dollars needed for the Evans Road and Craig traffic signal.
Director Fiddler, quick question on the traffic signals. Historically, these traffic signals are right around that ballpark, $600,000 to $1 million. For the Getz Road traffic signal and the Evans Road traffic signal, are those now, or would they be closer to fully funded, ready to break ground?
Yes, yes, they are. So you can see there's a difference in the cost between the two because the Getz Road has a lot of street improvements as compared to the Evans Road.
Okay.
Yeah. And then Newport Road, raised medians, working towards that project. We've been designing that, and we're trying to start doing those improvements along that corridor. So it'll include the raised medians and some landscaping elements. And then moving into developer-funded projects, again, this is going into our CIP. Some of these are CFD bond premiums. The first one, however, is not. This is directed towards development at Menifee Valley. Brookfield is providing the city the dollars to construct a new fire station. It will be the Heritage Lakes Fire Station just north of Matthews Road and east of Menifee Road. And then Antelope Road resurfacing Holland and Newport. This would be coming from some of the CFD bond premiums. This would be able for us to enhance some of the bike and ped improvements per our Complete Streets program, some of the recommendations that they have made in that report. The McCall Boulevard widening, we're working through widening McCall Boulevard from 2 lanes to 4 lanes, basically from Junipero to the hospital entrance Oakhurst. Because right now it necks down to 2 lanes or 1 lane in each direction. This would open it up to 4 lanes. Holland Road widening Bradley to Hahn, again taking that road segment from 2 lanes to 4 lanes. This would be utilizing some of the CFD bond premiums from Corpse Ranch. Sun City Barnett Road sidewalk improvements. This is from the McLaughlin Village's CFD bond premiums. This is adjacent to the Sun City community. That there's a segment of curb, gutter, and sidewalk that's missing to complete that roadway network. And then Briggs Road improvements, Tres Lagos to drive to Holland Road. We have 2 developments that's that straddle both sides of the Thousands Trail RV park that will never be built out. So we're using the bond premiums from the Rockport Ranch to complete that segment, because right now the developers are constructing Nautical Cove, which is on the south side of the RV park. This would complete those improvements. And then we have a couple options that we have the Banner Park bond premiums. We have either the Banner Park improvements or a Lindenberger multi-use trail. I know there was some requests for tot lots for Banner Park, but there's also a gap in the multi-use trail on the west side of Lindenberger from going across the Salt Creek Trail. That's a very nice multi-use path that could use a connection, connecting those 2 communities together, because there's other parks and schools that are south of the Salt Creek Trail.
A question on that. I know it says requested by council. The reason it was requested by council is because, the previous council member got an earful from the neighborhood there that it's nice, but there's no park for their kids, and it's a family-oriented development there, and their desire is to have a park there. So I'm not too sure where the multi-use trail came from, but our last discussion as a council was for some kind of a playground there.
Yes, the multi-use trail came in before the tot lot came up, but that's why the discussion, we're carrying them both as options to the council. The multi-use trail would connect the communities to a much larger region, much more park facilities within the communities, and then connect the communities north and south of Salt Creek.
So we'll have a chance to discuss that at a future workshop or
Yeah,
on which direction to go?
yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Well, and we can discuss it at the end of the presentation as well, what timing allows. So this is kind of a map just showing the geographical locations of those potential projects. If you're as Councilmember Dynas just mentioned, project number 3 is the 2 different options. You can either see the Lindenberger Trail or the park that's highlighted in blue. So starting up on the northwest corner, we have the McCall Boulevard widening project, and then kind of the northwest corner 2 would be the Sun City Barnett sidewalk improvements, and then 3, the Lindenberger or the Banner Park improvements. And then the other PMP, Antelope Road, Holland Road, we're basically resurfacing Antelope Road from Craig, just south of Craig Avenue, all the way up to Newport. But the improvements for the pedestrian improvements that we're proposing with this funding would be closer up to Antelope. I'm sorry, up to Newport. And then item 5, the Holland Road widening Bradley to Hahn. This is to add additional funding to a project that we have so we can complete the project. As you're all aware, we just opened the Holland Road Bridge over the I-215, so we're experiencing more traffic utilizing that corridor, so that would help widen that segment out all the way to Bradley. And then
Director Fiddler,
Yeah.
Actually finish your train of thought. I didn't want to interrupt. Finish that, and then I'll.
Yeah, my only last one
Okay.
was the Briggs Road, which is shown as item 6.
Okay. I see, the Holland Road widening, and I know in a previous council meeting, we had discussed Holland, the realignment of Holland and Marietta, and I know that's a challenging intersection, right? And I don't know if I was trying to look through the extensive amount of pages in the CIP list of what number on the CIP plan that was, and so we don't have to do that now, but if maybe you or Geronimo or someone in the staff can help me filter through all those pages to see where that realignment is, and then when we're done with your presentation, I'll bring it back up, but just giving you a heads up.
Yeah,
Okay.
definitely. Okay, and now we're looking at active projects. Parks and Trails, the Gail Webb Restroom Park. This is to add additional funding. It was the council's desire to improve that to a connected restroom instead of a septic tank type restroom. Local park in Quimby. We have Evans Park North design and construction. This is more probably for the design support for conceptual design. Then we have Fire Station 68, adding interior improvements at $300,000. This we're in the design phase, but this would add funds for the construction phase. Beth Drive street improvements, $250,000. There's a segment of roadway that has some asphalt that's deteriorating that we need to come in and put some curb and gutter in to help keep the road from deteriorating. Menifee Road widening, this is adding additional funding for that project. There was a lot of additional needs for storm drain and right-of-way mitigation. And then Bailey Park Boulevard, we have $2.7 million for, this is to continue construction to build that project out. This is to build the road and add sewer to that area.
question on that, Director Fiddler, on the restroom at Gale Webb. I remember this being a hot topic with many residents showing up in the previous year, and I think estimates were around 400, 500,000 off the top of my head. I see we do need additional funding for it. What does this 250 accomplish exactly? What is it paying for?
The Gale Webb, there's.
The restrooms.
There's 350 total.
Oh,
of
350, not
yeah.
250, sorry.
Yeah, so 350. We're working through the design right now. To connect it to the sewer is becoming quite expensive, to go underneath the existing wash that's there to connect into the sewer system. So that the majority of the additional costs are to create that sewer system to connect it to the new restroom.
Okay, so the 350 would be for the design plus more.
The design is already ongoing.
It's ongoing,
This is
okay.
to supplement the construction costs for the project.
When that day comes?
Yeah.
Okay, okay. And the Evans Park North, I was informed that this park might have some challenges because of possibly Native American burial grounds or Native American, the situation there may be challenging. Can you provide any insight into that?
Unfortunately, I cannot. I can ask Bryce with Community Services to provide a little bit of information on that, if we want to do that at this time, or maybe come back to it after.
While we're on it, yeah.
Okay.
Mr. Howell, can you please provide what you may know about the Evans Park North?
So that Evan Parks North is obviously just north of Craig, where the pump track is right now. There is the environmental process where we're at in that right now. There has been no native or any kind of anything like that has been found at the site of that. So the reason for this project now is looking for more is we can't finish that environmental until we actually have a high def, in-depth conceptual plan for it. So, but no native or any material would be there. If we do any digging or anything, we would obviously have native on site to be able to just observation-wise, but there was nothing found on the site.
Okay, to be determined. Thank you, sir.
Yep.
All right. So this goes into a little bit more detail for each one of the projects. If you would like, I can run through each one, or if you have specific ones that you would like me to elaborate on a little bit more. I know we're short on time to make sure you have enough time to ask questions.
Mayor
Would this
Pro
be the-
Tem, I'm sorry, Councilman
Oh,
Dinus.
yeah, okay.
Okay, Councilman Dinus.
Back on the banner park, we could talk about this a little later. Do you want to wait till the end on this, or?
No, this is fine. This is good time.
Okay. What are the costs of doing either or? I mean, are they equal in cost, or is one more expensive than the other?
It really depends on how elaborate we want to get with the tot lot. Tot lot can start to climb very fast. You can have a very small structures, or you can have multiple structures based on age. So those can escalate very fast depending on what type of amenities you try to place into there.
Okay. Well, first, this is what the community had asked in the first place. Number two, these are being used, this is being funded by CFD premiums. And I know I've talked to staff in the past on that. So essentially, we're using what the residents' tax dollars are paying for this. And since their tax dollars, since they wanted some kind of a park for their kids, and it's their tax dollars, I think we should be sensitive to that and not use it for more of a regional approach when it's their money that's paying for it. So I know when Council Member Solbuk is here, she said she got a lot of requests for that. So yeah, I would say that if this is what they want and we can work it in with those premiums, we should keep it local to that community and build what they would really want to see, for their kids and stuff. Having a nice little trail to walk somewhere else is not the same as being able to walk across the street or down the street a little bit and take their kids to the park to play. I mean, they got a little splash pad, but right now, I don't think anyone's there, I'm pretty sure, playing in a splash pad right now. So I think that's why I think some kind of a tot lot based on available funds would be the most well-used of the funds for that neighborhood. Thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem Carwin.
Thank you. Would this be an appropriate time or meeting to talk about things that are not on this list that I'd like to maybe explore adding?
Yeah, we can, if we get through the list, and then it'll be great time for the council to add.
Okay,
those
then as
items.
far as this list goes, the one I wanted to ask you about was the Ridgemore Road culvert. So can you just elaborate a little bit about, I think that's on slide 10. Can you elaborate a little bit about how that would work? Are we talking about building a bridge there? Or are we talking about going under the existing roadway? What does that improvement entail?
So that would entail constructing a box culvert underneath the roadway, not truly a bridge, but a box culvert that would carry the capacity of water flow, stormwater flow. Instead of it, right now, it flows over the top of the road. It acts as an Arizona crossing, where on any moderate storm, the water goes over across the top of the road. We would elevate the road up enough to put a box culvert under it to carry the capacity of that water in I believe it's a 100-year storm. Yeah.
So is there, do we have environmental hurdles with that because it feeds into Salt Creek and Canyon Lake?
We have environmental hurdles on all projects. Luckily, this one is more, we're taking an existing road and lifting it up. So it's a little bit less, but we will have to explore as we go in there to make sure there's no riparian things. But luckily, this is inside of a maintained golf course area, so it may be a little bit less biological improvements in there. So, but we do, as part of our project and our design process, we will do an environmental evaluation of it and look towards it. But in general, we're taking the road and creating the box where the existing road is.
And then item number 2, the slide that's up here right now, the Sun City Barnett sidewalk improvements. Is there an expected timeline on that project?
I believe that was in fiscal year 26, 27, but I can go back.
Because
Yeah, it's, no.
it hasn't been assigned
no,
yet, right?
It's 25, 26, so it's coming, it would be next fiscal year.
Next fiscal year.
Yeah.
So in fiscal year 26, we could see action on that?
In calendar year 26?
Calendar year 26?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, thank you. Those are all I have on the existing projects.
Councilman Temple.
Yeah, on previous slide 11, where you indicate that we're using developer fees of $10 million to build Heritage Lakes Fire Station. So that's for the construction acquisition of the fire station. What's going to be the cost to man a crew and provide the equipment, and will those funds primarily come from DD or other sources?
Oh, that's outside of my range for CIP. But the funding that there are is solely dedicated to the design and construction. They already dedicated the land for where that facility is going to be. So the operating cost would be outside of the $10 million.
Okay, and that's going to come from Menifee.
Yeah, that would be our standard. That would come in our standard operating budget process.
But no idea what that would be?
No, not for that facility.
Councilman Dynas.
One thing, I know we're working on expanding the McCall by the hospital from a 2 to 4 lane. There's a lot of information. I didn't see it on any of your lists there.
Yeah, that one we were asking for $300,000 on this new request. me go back. McCall Boulevard, number 1.
Okay, very good. Evelyn Wood's speed reading courses just has failed me greatly on this one here. But, okay, thank you. I just want to make sure that, we're still on our list to get that
So,
done.
yeah, what we're actually doing, we're also coordinating very heavily with Brookfield Properties, because Brookfield Properties will, shortly after we widen it to 4 lanes, they are widening it to 6 lanes. So we're trying to coordinate our work to where we don't do any throwaway.
Great.
So,
Okay, thank you.
all right, now, Mayor Pro Tem, this is your time.
Yes.
You got
I
the
hit the better request to speak
introduction. It's
button.
all you.
All right, so I'll go through them a little quickly. So the first one I have is the Bradley Basin, right? That dead giant drainage lot across the street from Paloma Valley High School, right?
One that looks like a nice sunken baseball field.
Exactly right. On Parks and Recreation, they had one they called the Pit, so I call it the Pit. I know I've been told for a long time that it's kind of too deep to make it ADA compliant to use it as is. Is it still active as a water facility?
Yes, that is an RCFCD water retention basin or detention basin. So,
Okay, so we couldn't. I know the expense would be ridiculous, but we couldn't like fill it in.
No.
It's because it's still an active drainage facility.
Correct.
Okay. Let's see. Oh, the project I wanted to ask you about. This kind of goes to the Complete Streets plan, linking up the Salt Creek Trail with the Paloma Wash Trail, so cyclists could get from the Salt Creek Trail over to the shopping plaza without having to traverse Newport in any kind of dangerous way. Is that something that is being considered? Is that in the plan, or is that something we can add to this list? I know it's not a number 1 priority, but for active and complete streets, it seems like it would be a logical connection.
It does make a very logical connection. It is currently not in our program to connect the two, so this would be the point where you would make that recommendation to put it into our CIP. It might be a 4 or a 3, but at least it's in there. So
I would like to make that recommendation. Do I need like a second for that?
Second.
Thank you. And then the last one I'll bring up is, I know we're doing the Bradley Road Bridge, and that's been, 10 plus years in the making, and I know Murrieta Road has the same problem down the line. Is there anything else that we can do there aside from rebuilding Murrieta Road, from an excavation standpoint or an underground piping, because the Ridgemore Road thing you were talking about sounded interesting to me for Murrieta Road, which doesn't flood as badly as Bradley.
right now, it's based off of what we have to go through with the Riverside County Flood Control District. We are in the process of designing a bridge for that facility as well, what we'll probably see is as we take out Bradley Road Bridge, the water is going to transfer down further to Murrieta Road.
But is there something else we can, because the problem isn't quite as bad there as it has been on Bradley. Is there something less than a $20 million bridge we can do that would alleviate the problem over there? Because it seems to be a newer road with less of a flood issue.
Not a long-term solution. A short-term, yeah, but a long-term, because the Salt Creek is proposed to have a significant amount of flood as development continues to occur, not only in our city, but in the county to the east of us.
Right.
So as these land developments occur, more runoff comes through our community. But it does, there is a possibility to do a short term, but we'd have to work with Riverside County Flood Control, but ultimately the long-term need is a bridge structure.
Okay, and the other things I have are just small stuff. I don't
Yeah.
need to bring it here. I appreciate the second, Councilman Dinas. That's all I have. Thank you.
Okay, I have a suggestion, council. Newport Road is a difficult road to get through for many of our residents. And I was thinking we can be a little creative and give them an alternate route to getting, an alternate route to Newport Road. And what I was thinking is,
Sorry,
what's so funny?
I started laughing. I was just thinking about a second level underneath.
Nothing that elaborate. So I was thinking improving Holland Road, and I wanted to follow up on that. What number on the CIP list was the realignment of Holland at Marietta? I had
Sorry,
difficulty myself. Well, while they're looking for that, I was, oh, sorry, I didn't over, go ahead.
CIP 2503.
What priority level is that? It's priority level 1?
Yeah, we're
Okay.
actually we're going into design for that right now.
Okay, great, great. And then I also saw in the CIP the widening of Holland from the Lake Elsinore city limits to Marietta. I think that was a priority 3. Yeah, I was interested in moving that up, maybe to a 2 or to a 1, and giving our residents an alternate route to Newport if they're traveling from the 15 freeway coming home, or they want to get to District 3 or District 4. It could provide them an alternate route across our city and avoid Newport.
So my concern with raising that up would be, I think you have to realign Holland before that becomes viable. Because if you widen all that out and that intersection still looks the way it does, then you're going to feed all this extra traffic into that janky intersection. And
So-
it could potentially make things a lot worse.
Yeah, so how feasible and how far along are we in the design? How can we accomplish that and do the sequencing properly if we were to move it up, or is that putting the horse in front of the cart for you?
No. So the realignment would have to occur in 2 phases. We would have to move the phase that's east of Marietta at one move, and then to the kind of a little bit to the south, and the alignment west of Marietta to the north, to kind of get them to line up a little bit better. So the part west of Marietta is going to be quite challenging. So that's going to take quite a bit of time for us to go through those efforts, because it will take a lot of right-of-way and some realignment of the roadway to make it work. The side east of Marietta is also constrained because there are some cultural resources that have been identified east of Marietta and south of Holland.
So what you're saying is it's a little
feasible.
bit of a tough timeline on, even though it's a priority 1, we're going to be working on it for quite some time.
We'll be working the one that we're working on right now is primarily on the east side. Yeah, it's making improvements and adding additional lanes between the two to create more capacity with the area.
Okay, so does that CIP, and it doesn't include the west side? Do we need to add that to straighten it out?
The current project is to improve the capacity. It doesn't go to the west side. It's more to improve capacity and connection between the two offset intersections. The other thing that we're working on is also a widening of Marietta from Craig to Newport. Just south of Holland to Newport. So we have 2 different projects that we're kind of working on in that general area, to where we'll be widening Marietta as well. But your question in regards to everything west of Marietta, it's not, I mean, we could add that to the program and start looking at long-range type improvements. But this is such a big project anyways, it would have to be done over multiple years anyways.
Okay, so you would need council direction to add the west side for the realignment and making it a straight shot. Is that what you need from us?
Yeah, if that's what the council
If
desires.
if that was the
Yeah.
vision, okay. I would like for that to happen, to give our residents a alternate route from the 15 forward to get to the 215 and to get to the other districts.
So I just want to make sure I understand what you're talking. So we're talking about, instead of it being two separate projects, the realignment and then the widening, add the widening to as a phase of the realignment project? Is that what we're talking about doing?
I would like for there to be one straight route, because right now it's two intersections.
No, it's a great plan. I
Right.
agree that that should happen. I just, here's my concern is that if we move the west side part up, there are things that won't get done because that's a priority one, where that's 10 years down the line because we got to do the whole Holland thing first. But if we're talking about making that a phase of Holland, then that would just kind of happen on its own anyway. So that's why.
I would just like, the sequencing is not my specialty, the technicalities, all the legalities, all of that. How can we make that vision happen?
I
That's
think
what I would.
what Mayor Pro Tem Carwin's kind of say is something that we would recommend as well, is we're going to continue from going east to west, right? So we're going to continue with our first phase, which is going to be from Hahn to Bradley, and then we'll go Bradley to maybe Evans, then Evans to Marietta, and then keep working that way. Because if we don't
Right.
accomplish everything, it's just going to be a bottleneck.
Right.
So we would continue to work sequentially and phasing the project. The current project that we have now, the Holland Road and Marietta Road intersection improvements, is more of a fix to increase capacity at that intersection for now.
Okay.
Because there is schools there.
Right.
So there's a lot of traffic that goes in and out. So we can add that as part of the phasing sequence, which is a great idea to give the residents an alternate path, because that's basically what Holland has done.
I would like to add that
yeah,
to the terminology.
Yeah.
I would, if your motion is to add that west side to the widening project as a phase in sequence, I'd second that.
Okay, let's do that. Let's do it and sequence it, and we want to make life easy for you.
Yeah.
You know, and I know it's very challenging, but I think ultimately Newport can get relief from something like that.
Yeah, you can see already with opening Holland Road how much relief it's provided for those adjacent roadways from Antelope to Hahn.
Okay, so would that be tied into, that way I can know where it's going to land on the CIP list? Would it be at the same priority as, where would that be on the CIP list as far as a priority? Just
I think they said the Holland realignment's a one already.
so, okay, so it'll be involved in the one.
Yeah, it'll be a separate phase. So it'll be its own CIP project as a future phase.
As a future phase to that.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. Thank you. Councilman Temple.
I believe it was discussed briefly, but Rockport Ranch is going to have some developer fees that are left over, and I would like to entertain a motion of having those fees adopted towards the construction of the community center at La Piedra and Menifee Road as a CIP project.
The one by the library?
The community center adjacent to the library.
Right.
Yeah. Rockport Ranch was going to have some developer fees that were in excess, and I was hoping to get those allotted towards that community center. I brought it up, I think, 2 months ago during a conversation we had about that community center, and I was told to bring it up today.
So I'll give a little background. As part of the land development for Rockport, they were required to pay roughly $3 million in developer fees for some changes to the zoning, I believe. And that was kind of a mitigation. I think that's what Councilmember Temple is referring to.
Okay, even clarification, it came from a CFD?
No,
They were just developer fees?
developer fees.
Got it, because I heard Rockport CFD right now, and that kind of threw me off. So there were separate developer fees.
Just to add to it, it's correct what Director Fiddler said, the reason that Rockport Ranch paid those. But recently, the CFD for Rockport Ranch issued bonds, and part of those bonds reimbursed those fees. And so that now makes them capital, meaning they need to be used for a capital project. And I think when that item came forward to the council, there was a suggestion about using those monies towards the community center project.
Okay, thank you.
I believe Councilmember Dines had already suggested that as well. So I think we're talking about the same project.
Okay. Okay, I do have, I was informed by Madam Clerk, we do have one speaker in the queue to come up and speak, but I would like to wrap up this or at least bring some. That's what I'm saying. I would like to kind of wrap this up. That way we're not ruining our train of thought on this. Councilman Dynas or City Manager Villa, do either of you have something to say on this Rockport Ranch community center topic?
Yeah, just wanted to maybe look into if there's a time limit on when to spend this money, because I know if it's tied to a CFD bond issue, there's a 5-year limit, and we wouldn't want to park that money longer than 5 years because we have to give it back. So it needs to be spent in 5 years, right?
It does need to be spent within 5 years. There may be some flexibility that for some general fund funded projects could be earmarked for the community center, and then that money with a time limit could be switched out for another project that's currently funded through a general fund contribution. So I think we could sort of accomplish that same goal and buy ourselves a little bit more time.
Okay, Councilman Dynas.
Thank you. Just back on the Holland Road, I understand it, the goal is to widen it from the Elsinore, the city limit, from, I guess it's more like
From
Canyon Lake,
Elsinore to Marietta.
Canyon Hills, that area, all the way down, because, you know, because once you get past, out of the city limits on Holland there, that area is kind of, you know, it is narrow road there. So now, my other question is, what's the time frame for all that? Is it 10 years plus, or?
Yeah, that'll it's probably close to 10 years.
Because if
Yeah.
it's a second, if it's going to be a separate CIP project, I hate to make it a number one and crowd out a shorter term or nearer term project that we could accomplish sooner, and if potentially make that a number two, then when we get closer to when the rest of the Holland Road is done, then we can elevate that to a number one so that we don't crowd out an existing or nearer term project that could be done sooner. That'd be my only suggestion.
Director Fiddler, you mentioned it'll just be added to the terminology of the one already in place as part of the sequencing?
No, it would be a separate CIP project.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got it, got it. So there would be different terminology for a
Yeah.
separate CIP priority, but ultimately towards that vision.
Same goal, yeah.
Got it, got it. Yeah, I understand we're quite a bit of ways, and it doesn't have to be number one. Ultimately, when it gets accomplished, it'd be a great accomplishment. So
Right.
I'm okay
It's
with.
important to get it on the list so it's not forgotten.
Right,
But if we can make it a number two, and then when Holland gets, you know,
Right.
widened and we get closer to it, it can be revisited to see if it's feasible, or, you know, in 5-10 years, you know, things could change dramatically, and then whoever's sitting up here can reevaluate that and move it up if it's appropriate.
right. And it sounds like Director Fiddler mentioned the sequencing of events, and a two would be adequate to not over bottleneck the top. Yeah, I'm okay with that. That sounds good. Okay. Councilman Temple, we will address that. I want to be courteous to our speaker. Madam Clerk, can you please call the speaker?
Of Kathy Kilman. If you want to go to the podium, you'll have 3 minutes to address the council.
Welcome, Mrs. Kilman.
Hi, good evening. Thank you for having this and letting us know about it so that we could be here today. I'm here to address the Sun City project at Rouse and Barnett. Sun City, Barnett, Rouse Road. We live at the club. And I wanted to introduce to you that we've brought a small group here to show support for this group, and to let you know that we feel it is a quality of life issue not having our sidewalk. It is an orphaned sidewalk. It was once 20 years ago feasible to walk on because the dirt was soft and there were rocks to walk on, and there weren't little holes like this that you know, like this to walk on. So when you're walking now, you're doing this. How that happened was about 15 years ago when the first project to the west of us came in, they used our dirt medium as parking for their big, huge trucks. And that was, you know, that was okay, but they flattened out all the dirt and we lost some plants. And then secondly, when the project to the west came in, we were very excited thinking, well, they must be the ones that are going to do our sidewalk. And we came to find out we weren't going to get a sidewalk from the project to the west. So where we are right now, and so very happy and pleased and thank you for bringing us up to, is it a priority 1, this project? Yes, thank you. A priority 1 for 2026, and we just wanted you to know that that is something that will really improve our quality of life, but also the folks around us with the walking and the dogs and the safety. But I also wanted to mention the increase in traffic with those new homes that have come all around us. I personally do like the fact that we have homes around us now, because I do my morning walks in and out of all the neighborhoods. And so I get to see and I get to enjoy it, and I meet a lot of dog walkers and a lot of folks that don't even live in our 55 plus community. And so that's really about all I have to say. Increased traffic, maybe a traffic study, maybe a crosswalk so we could get to the community across the street from us. Let me just make sure I don't have anything else here. And then I think it's just really just the safety, and we're very pleased that we got moved up on your priority, and thank you very much for having us here. Okay.
Thank you very much. We appreciate you attending tonight. Council, we have a few topics that I believe staff would like clarification on, and I want to give Councilman Temple the courtesy of addressing it. So we have the developer funds for the community center, and then staff would also like direction on Banner Park and or the Lindenberger multi-use trail. Well, yeah, sir, go ahead.
Yeah, so I would like to propose a motion that the developer fees in excess from Rockport Ranch be applied towards the new community center to be built at La Piedra and Menifee Road.
Second.
Okay. Staff, City Manager Villa, do you need any clarification on those fees being used within a certain time period, or is staff clear on that?
I think we have plenty of time to think about how to do that. I was just asking our deputy city manager whether we have funded the construction drawings, because I think we started to design it. I think you saw it a couple months ago. So we just need to be able to spend that money within 5 years to qualify for that. But I think we have time to allocate it, and if we get to the finish line and we haven't spent it, we can always reallocate it.
Okay, thank you. We also have one more CIP workshop coming up, and please provide us any updates should you run into anything from then till now that we need to be aware of. Thank you. Okay, the next topic staff presented to us was Banner Park and the multi-use trail.
Well, I mean, I've already, you know, where I'm at on this one here, but you defer to the Councilman Temple. I mean, it's his district, but I'm just sharing the feedback that we've got in the past on that.
And I'm just wondering if somehow maybe we could have a little community meeting with city staff in attendance to get the read of that area, what they want, what they'd like to see developed there.
Can I ask the Lindenberger connectivity proposal, was that a staff suggestion or was that brought as a request from residents?
That was more probably a staff to be in line with our Complete Streets program.
Whereas the tot lot was raised by
Yeah, that was
the residents.
came in after, yeah.
So, I mean, that tells me what I need to know. And I remember when it was brought up previously here, I'd be in favor of just doing the tot lot because it's more community oriented. And I think there are ways to get through there connectively without that bridge for now. Not bridge, but connection.
I second that.
Okay, sounds like there's direction for that.
Can I interject something real quick?
Yes.
I did talk with my capital improvement team. The Murrieta Road project that we have widening basically south of Holland to Newport does include some realignment of the intersection to connect those back up a little. So,
Okay.
So that project will make that realignment.
Okay, that's a priority 3?
No, it's a
That's one?
Yeah.
So it's all gonna be one now?
Yeah, it just doesn't include the widening from Murrieta to Lake Elsinore.
Okay,
So that part we still need to keep in there.
okay.
Yep.
Okay, thank you for that. City Attorney Melching.
Yes, Mayor. During the course of the workshop today, there have been a number of items that have been reprioritized or proposed for reprioritization or for funding earmarks by way of effectively a motion and a second. But there wasn't a vote taken on any of those things to get you to a majority of the council. So my suggestion is, if I didn't hear any objection to any of those items from council members, is that you have one vote to effectively have the council endorse all of the items that were previously moved and seconded so that we have
Right.
formalized staff direction going forward.
I will make that motion.
Second.
And I will be the third to push it over the finish line.
I think we got to vote on the screen.
Okay.
Mayor Estrada, just if I might add to follow up on the operating budget that Councilmember Temple asked, it's approximately about $3 million a year to operate a fire station with a engine, which is about $2.5 million to staff an engine and about $500,000 for all the utilities and everything that go into running a fire station. But the new fifth fire station would be repurposing and moving the staff from one of our squads that's at Station 7 over there, and so we would be repurposing those two staff positions, and then we'd have to add basically the budget for a captain to fully staff a 3-person engine. So it'd probably be about $1.5 million or so to fund that engine, and a new engine costs about $1.5 million as well. But we're working to save up for that as well. Yeah. So, but it's about probably 2.5 years away from needing staff, so it might not show up in this operating budget right now.
Thank you.
Thank you, Assistant City Manager Jones. Any other comments or discussion from council?
Mayor, if I may, just for the audience,
Yes.
that vote did pass 5-0.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. That vote did pass 5-0. Okay, we have enacted the recommended actions of receiving our 10-year financial forecast. We provided feedback and input for our CIP presentation. Thank you to those in the audience who attended and took part and participated. We appreciate your presence here at City Hall. I will adjourn this meeting at 5:04. Thank you.